Okay, so here we are then, Steve. The final episode, a bit of a wrap up, and I suppose to sort of tidy up or to sort of fold in any elements of this or what I'm thinking. So as a non-developer, as I said in the first episode, never developed anything, and sort of learning through this process. And obviously, there's more to learn as well. And as you said in the previous episode, in the intro, it's a learned skill being a developer. So it's something you've got to at least have a fundamental understanding of what you're doing, but then you need to get the right support. But one of the things that's covered that I've felt is, or I've come to learn is, when I think of property developers, and maybe because of my day job, I've always thought of the big property developers. You know, they're building apartments, they're building towers, they're, you know, the Gurners and Mirvacs and Lend-Lease types of development organisations, or builder developers in Lend-Lease and Mirvac. But actually, during the course of this series, you can start off with, you know, you're buying a property, renovating it and flipping it, or in your existing property to renovate and then sell it for more money. Then the next scale up there, you've got different complexities and size of development that you can take on board. And that's obviously based upon your risk. The smaller the development, the least the risk in theory. So that quite appeals to me, because you can start off quite small, and you don't have to jump straight in at developing that corner block 4-story apartment of 30 units. You start off with something small and bite-sized, so you get used to the process, and you repeat that. One thing, again, during the course of this series, that I've always been aware as a recruiter in the built environment of just the amount of conflict between all the different parties. And I've always just assumed, and people seem to allocate that conflict to the developer, the builder, the somebody, one person does it. But having gone through this and listened to, you know, the potential risk a developer faces as regards who they're engaging, the initial feasibility, the acquisition, the financial risk, the risk, more risk, the investment or the cost in the investment.
Are you trying to sell this, or
well,
what?
no, just more a case of, but it's more a case of being aware of that makes you think you really have, you can't piss about with it. It's if you take risk. If you try to think you can get into this industry and shortcut it because it's quick, get rich quick scheme, that is, I would assume, that's probably where that's where you can have your cock-ups, and that's where you're going to lose a load, ultimately. So it's been quite a large wake-up on my mind of to just how much emphasis you have to give to all of these small little component parts, which together reach this massive development, or a development, small, medium, or large, getting contracts right, engaging with the right people. But the one thing that I think I hadn't realised, or even for a small-scale development, is we always underestimate time, and just the amount of time it will take to do this, whether it's me doing it with a normal job on the side or doing it professionally. You've just got to accept that it is a time-consuming process, your time and everyone else's. So that's been a fairly decent eye-opener for me, Steve, it's fair to say.
And so it should be. It was intended to be. You know, the whole reason why I think we did this whole series was, you know, everybody wants to be a property developer because property developers live in the big houses, go on these expensive holidays and drive flashy cars. And yeah, some do. The ones who are good at it do, but the ones who aren't good at it, well, they live in a tiny little apartment out the back somewhere, driving a beaten up old, you know, ute. So you've got to be really careful with property development. And you know, one of the things and one of the reasons why I agreed to do this with you, Martin, was people need to know what's involved in property development. Because too many people come into it thinking that they can just make a fortune. And the fact is that you can make a fortune. It's not something like, you know, like I can't just decide tomorrow that I want to be a surgeon. You know, I can't decide tomorrow to be a dentist. I can't do those things. I have to learn. Now, I've got to learn it. You know, I didn't become a property developer, you know, because I woke up this morning and said, hey, I'm a property developer. Now, I had to learn. My first ever project was an apartment. I did up an apartment. Then I bought a house that was incomplete and completed the house. Then I bought a home and renovated a home, and then I bought a home, renovated, extended. Then I bought another property, did the same thing. You know, it's all about, you know, and that's just, you know, while I was an employee. since then, like now I'm doing a 40-unit development. So what's really important is you grow. And if you come into it thinking you can do a 30-unit development, you're kidding yourself.
You can do it, but you'll probably lose a lot of money.
Yeah, look, if you've got the money to do it, then you can invest that money, but you've got to pay someone who knows what they're doing. Like I've got a consultancy firm. If that's you and you want to be a developer by putting all your money in, cool. Come to me and I'll put you into a project somewhere. So that's great. We can do that. But if you want to be the developer yourself, the first thing you've got to do is learn about it. And, once you learn, there's only so much that you can learn from books and videos and training courses and all that sort of stuff. And, they're essential in that journey, but they can only take you so far. You actually have to, dip your toe in the water and do a project. And from that perspective, I always recommend to people, do an apartment first. If you live in
renovate an apartment first.
Renovate an apartment. Renovate an apartment first. Or, if you live in a regional area and apartments aren't part of the market, renovate a house. But start at the bottom end of your market and then work your way up. So, renovate an apartment. Great. What you learn in that, the mistakes that you make in that is worth more than any training could ever provide you with. And if you end up making a little bit of money, mate, you beauty.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So that's the important thing. Start small and grow from that.
And if that's me, and that's kind of what I'm thinking, the sort of my grand ambitions not that I've had grand ambitions to be a developer, but my assumption being to develop or be considered or to be a developer or to be making a second income from development. I was sort of thinking, you need to find a plot of land, build a few houses, I was thinking multiple, but back to that and what you're saying there. So I've got the house, got the missus, got the mortgage, got the kids, don't have a lot of time, everybody's working, but let's say we have that sort of pressing appetite. So we, in theory, need to go out and buy an apartment. We need to set ourselves up as a proprietary limited company to do that. What's that? Just that, because we didn't really cover this very specifically, but if that's your first step and you want to do that refurbishment of an apartment, are you doing that as a proprietary limited, or I would have to find some money and go through a normal mortgage process? But I think you said in the show, proprietary limited is how you would do that.
Now, with my experience, I would do it as that. When I did my first one, no one told me. My dad was a developer. He didn't tell me any of this sort of stuff. Thanks, Dad. I really appreciate it. I had to learn by making mistakes. That's a great way of learning. But Dad, if you had told me, it could have been a lot easier. I could have made a lot more money.
Yeah.
Too late. But I would suggest to people, people go, how much money do you make? And I go, well, it depends on how much money you make and depends on what you do with your project. But my first project that I did, basically, when I sold that, I made the equivalent of a year's salary. Okay. So how much are you on now, right? If you doubled that income, in the next financial year, would that have any sort of implications for you? Wouldn't it be a shame to have all that extra money?
Yeah.
So, but if you do it in a proprietary company, depending on how much you're earning now, you've got to contemplate the cost of establishment and running a proprietary company. If you're going to renovate, buy and renovate in that name, there's quite a number of issues attached to that. I'm being very, very high level when I say do it on a proprietary company. You need to have an understanding of what the implications of that are.
Yeah.
But the key thing is, if you're already paying, on the top marginal tax bracket, if you're earning 180 grand a year, you're losing half of every dollar above that. So if you did a renovation and made another $200,000, you're going to lose 100 grand to the tax man.
Yeah.
If you put it into a proprietary company, only ever going to get hit with company tax, right? So you lose 30% instead of 50. So you've just made 20% more in your money than you would have. And then you've got that bigger money to put into the next project and the next one and the next one. You can keep rolling it over.
For that first, like buying a normal house, which many listeners will have done, some not so much. But buying a house, you've got to find your deposit. So if you set up a proprietary limited organisation with a view to buy a unit, to renovate it and to sell it, how much money do you need to put down as a deposit to push? How much money do you need, your own money do you need to put into the proprietary limited? Obviously, that'll vary. So let's say most people have to get sort of 80, 90% mortgages in, so they need 10, 20% at least to put in. Is that the same if you have a proprietary limited company and that's your ambition?
So when you do development projects in a development company, a proprietary company, what you're doing is you're creating a business. So, and business lending is completely different to personal lending. So now you're operating a completely different world. And if you're going to seriously look at this and say, hey, I'm going to have a go, first thing you got to do is learn about development. So learn about development first. Then you make the commitment of a proprietary company before you go and secure an asset. But what I'd be doing is I'd go to your bank and say to them, I'm going to start a proprietary company and I want to borrow money in that company for a project that's going to take me 12 to 18 months. I don't want to pay a mortgage. I want to capitalize the interest. What can you do for me? And they will give you parameters of on what basis they would be willing to lend to you. And that's the best place to start. But don't even go there until you decide, you learn about property development and go, this is definitely something I want to do.
Yeah.
Because going and talking to the bank about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, wasting your time, because when you do go to learn about it after you've done all that, you just find out, okay, property development's not for me. You've just wasted time.
So if you're okay, and then so if you go and see the bank, I'm off to see Combank, and whichever bank anybody goes to see, you say, I want to set up this. I've been looking at this for a year or two. I'm convinced this is for me. It's an aspiration. This is my retirement fund. I need to hype that up because I could say I arrived in Australia when I was 31, so my super fund is 10 years behind where a lot of people might be. So and the bank, and I say, so this is what I want to do in the manner you've just explained there. But they're going to want some asset, or they're going to want something that if it goes south, they're going to get their money back. So where does that come from?
You are going to have to put equity into the company. Now, this is where you've got to have a good accountant who understands property development. So you're going to need to get money into the company. So there are two problems with that. One is you can put it in as capital, as in shares, and have shareholding, so you buy shares in your company and that's the company's working capital, or you can lend it into the company.
Yeah. So I would take it out of my savings. I mean, I don't know if you'd do this, but I'd maybe put it
pull it out of your mortgage.
Yeah, you'd remortgage a little bit, grab 50, 100 grand or something like that if you've got the equity in your house.
Yeah, it depends on what your project is as to how much you sort of need. But general rule of thumb, when you look at a project, whatever your total development costs are going to be, total development costs, not your construction costs, but when everything else is added up.
All the shopping list of all the consultants, all the engineers, all the enviro checks, all the...
Covered that, that scary list that I came out with when we're talking about the...
When you start seeing me panic.
Yeah, right. All of that, when you add up all of that, that's your total development cost. And generally speaking, a lender may lend you 60% of that.
Yeah.
So you're going to need the rest. So if that's $1 million worth of costs, you're going to come up with 40%, 400 grand.
Yeah. So the show's not getting off the road really until you've got a way to find that starting figure.
And this is the thing. If you haven't got the money, so problem solution, developer, problem solver, right? I'm here, I look at a problem, I go, okay, what's the solution? The number one reason why people do not get started in property development is because I haven't got the money.
Which was literally the first line in the email I sent you. Or the second, maybe. I said, would you fancy doing this? I couldn't do it because I haven't got the money.
Yep, that's it. And well, okay, sure. If that's what you believe, you can't do it. But the thing is, you're looking at it from perspective of, there's my bank balance, I haven't got the money. But the reality is, that's just a problem. If you've got a problem, if you're walking on the beach and it's a stinking hot day and you've got bare feet and your feet are getting burnt, that's a problem. What are you going to do? Stop and put your thongs on, right? Hey, that's the solution. Okay, here we go. You haven't got the money. Problem. What's the solution? Get some. Well, okay, what am I going to do? Rob a bank? Okay, you want to be stupid? Be stupid. That's funny. But you want to really solve it? Find someone who has. Where can you get money from? Next problem. Where do I get it? Okay, well, start thinking about it. Banks have it, right? But banks are only going to lend you the balance above what you put in. So you're looking for the money that you put in, the equity, your capital. So you've got to find a capital partner or partners. So, okay, who do I know? Who do I know that's interested in property development? We can pool the money that we have and maybe we get enough to be able to do a project. You are the only person that can decide whether or not you're going to be a developer, because you have to look at that problem. You have to solve that problem. No one else is going to do it for you. So how badly do you want to be a property developer? If you want to be a property developer, you will solve that problem.
So there's a solution for every problem in the property development process. It's just a matter of whether you're prepared to take on that challenge.
That's it. I mean, a young guy who came through my training, he came to see me, for lunch one day recently, and he's gone, Steve, I've done it. I've bought a place. I've renovated it. I've got it on the market, an apartment, right? And I've gone, mate, that's fantastic. What are you going to make? Right? And he's gone, I'll probably make, a couple $100,000. And I said, phenomenal. I said, how is that compared to what you normally make, from your, he owned a little joinery business. And he said, oh, that's going to be, double what I make paying myself in my business. And I said, mate, that's awesome. Absolutely awesome. I said, but you've done it in your own name. You're going to lose half of it in tax. And he's gone, no, I won't. I said, why? He said, I quit my job. I've stopped my business to do this. And I've gone, ooh, was that a good idea? He said, yeah, no, I should have kept
the Australian, yeah, no.
But here's the education. The education in that is he should have done it in a proprietary company. He now knows that. Well, okay, he stuffed up the first one. He stuffed up by quitting, handing his business. I mean, it wasn't a big business, wasn't making, squillions of bucks, but it was making him $100,000 a year, right? In income for himself. So that's okay, but not enough. So he's gone, yeah, Steve, he said, I should have kept that income while I was doing the project because I've been spending my own money to live. Right. So you go, okay. So I said, what are you going to do different next time? And he said, I paid too much for the property. It took me too long to do it. I spent a lot more money doing the renovation than I had originally planned. I was going to make $300,000, but now I'm probably only going to make 200. So, you look at that and the learning that he got out of that first one, next one, proprietary company. He's going to keep his business going, right? But he said, I'm going to start my business again. But he said, I really don't want to. And I said, well, what's the alternative? And he's gone, well, I made a bit of money out of this, but I want to do bigger projects. So I don't want to spend that money. I want to roll it into the next one. I said, then you have to have an income. So you've got to find out how you're going to have that income. So he said, okay, all right. So he's contemplating what he's going to do there. And then he said, because I now know what to do and that it makes money, he said, I want to do more and more. And I said, well, what's stopping you? And he said, I haven't got the money for it. And I said, all right, what about your friends and family? He said, they won't do it. I said, you tell them what money you've made, and I reckon they might be interested in having a go, So, he's gone, yeah, but I haven't got a big enough pot of money. And I said, well, why don't you use their money and charge a fee to do it for them? There's your income. And then you're creating another sort of, income stream for yourself instead of having your job.
Yeah.
Be a manager of their money.
You're being a development manager ultimately. So they're putting in a bigger chunk than you. But from that money, you're paying yourself a wage, which is like a living wage to keep you going. And then at the end of that, bingo, you've got your saving your tax, proprietary limited.
And with the other people, tell them that anything above a certain profit margin is your success fee. And he said, can I do that? I said, mate, you can do anything you like. This is a commercial world. It's what you can negotiate with someone. So the thing about property development, it's not just, like in the property development training that we offer, we teach you how to develop property. A significant difference between what I do and other people is I teach about the business property development. And that is so important, is that if you can learn about the business of property development, it can help you make a lot more money sooner because you structure yourself properly.
Would I be right in saying, and obviously if it's your job and you are employed as a property developer or you're within the property industry working for a Mirvac, Lend-Lease, whoever it might be, that's one thing. And that's job, that's work. But would it be fair to say that being a developer for yourself and like a boutique developer of you, and you're not doing institutional size stuff, is it quite an addictive experience?
Yeah, I love it. When my wife and I were just doing the renovations, right? I mean, it's not big money, and notwithstanding, I'll be honest with the viewers, my wife and I made millions out of buy, renovate, sell, without talking about projects, just buy, renovate, sell stuff. We've made millions of dollars. So anyone can do it. If I can do it, I haven't got a degree. I got kicked out of school, for God's sake. I was, I was one of those kids. So, I got kicked out of school at the age of 16. Now, if I can do it, anyone can. Right? There's nothing special about me, but the only thing is I learnt about property development. I used my building skills because I started as a chippy, so I'm a carpenter. Started as a carpenter, became a builder. I then got into the commercial building, so I was doing big scale stuff while at home after hours, and taking phone calls during the day. Sympathetic employer, right? Because I was good at what I did for my employer, it was okay for me to do this stuff on the side. And, mate, grew wealth.
Yeah.
I really grew wealth. And that paid for, the BMWs, the Mercedes, the private schools for the kids, the big house, and if you want that stuff, it's there for you. You just have to work for it.
Yeah. And so within that, so we know it's addictive, we know it's enjoyable. I mean, if you've had success,
fun.
I'm assuming it's probably slightly less fun and less addictive if you get it wrong.
I pulled all my hair out, because of it. Nothing to do with the stress of being married for, a number of years.
Yeah.
But no, it's all to do with the fun and excitement of it all. Yeah. Look, it's stressful, but it's so enjoyable. I love what I do. It's that whole thing about, if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
I love what I do.
Yeah.
What I do, and property development was for me. When I transitioned out of construction into development, I came into development kicking and screaming. I didn't want to do it, but I had a former employer who had said to me all they ever wanted to do is be a developer, but they were, my boss in a construction company. They left, 4 years later, I get a phone call from them saying, hey, we got a project. It's absolute disaster, a development project. It's a disaster. It's going to lose a fortune. I want you to come and be the development manager. It's like, I don't know nothing about development. And my boss said to me, no, but you're a safe pair of hands. You're really good with numbers. So come in and rescue the project. It took me 3 years, but in those 3 years, I found out how good or how much I actually knew about development through the projects that I'd been doing and through talking to my dad about his property development projects, So I actually knew quite a lot. And it's just experience. Experience is what it takes, but you've got to get started. You've got to learn first.
And on that getting started part, and obviously we'll come on to reaching out to you afterwards and the next stages of learning for people. But if anybody's listening to this and I think they've always been, like a lot of people, I've always been thinking about it, always quite fancied it, property, it's interesting, they're engaged in it, they're enthusiastic about developing or property or buying, renovating and selling it. But they've got a day job. That's important. They've got stresses and normal stuff like most of us have. What's the kind of further reading they can do in the evenings, or like what sort of stuff, if they're just on that very, very, very early stages of thinking they want to go on this journey, but they know they need to learn more and maybe they reach out to you, but what sort of stuff in the evening should they be looking at or keeping an eye out? Is it just a case of reading the financial news, joining the property council? What's the sort of those initial real early stages of starting the process?
I'll plug something that I've got on my website, all right, and that is a free ebook download, Property Development for Beginners, a beginner's guide to property development. Oops, sorry, shaking the table again. It's not another quote. That book I wrote for people who have absolutely no idea, don't even know whether they want to get into development. It's 40 pages. It's a quick read, right? And it's the sort of thing that you read that and you go, yeah, I could be interested, or yeah, no, that doesn't interest me. Because I give an overview of what we do. What is it that we do? How do we do it? And obviously, I'm only scratching the surface because I'm not providing in-depth knowledge, but it's a guide, just a beginner's guide, something really, really simple. So, to me, download those ebooks, all right? Just get ebooks from various training organizations. Just be aware a lot of them are just sales pitches. So, it's just, come and do our course, et cetera, et cetera. So mine's actually a book. If you want to pay for it instead of getting it for free, jump on Amazon, right? And you can download it. But, I get onto YouTube or Vimeo, whatever your preference is for social media, and just have a look at what people are talking about. I've got a channel up there as well. Have a look, listen to what people are saying. Get an understanding of little snippets and stuff. Just find out what it's about. Listen to podcasts like this. No, it's just hear people talking about development, because the more you listen to this sort of thing, like even if you're washing the dishes or doing the ironing, put on a headset and have a listen to this sort of stuff. Any sort of stuff like this, you'll get two things you'll find out. One is generally what's involved, and the other one is who you really want to listen to. Because you've got to be able to, if you do decide to go ahead with development as a career, you've got to choose who is going to be your educator. And that's the critical thing, So from the Property Development Institute side, I'm an active property developer. I'm out there. I'm doing it every day. I've got a consultancy business. We're out there doing stuff for others every day. And then the training, that's instead of playing golf, I have Property Development Institute. It's my love. It's the absolute love of my life to help people get started in property development. So choose who you resonate with. Learn from that person. That is what you have to do if you want to take that next step.
Yeah, and just one caveat to that about golf. What you can also do is play a round of golf, but listen to this podcast repetitively over and over again.
I don't play golf because those balls are so bloody expensive, right? And I just can't afford all of them.
Oh, mate, I've got about 1,000 in the house. We walk the dog up the golf course every day, and it's not a very good level of golfers up there. So, I've literally got thousands of them that I've picked up. So,
is it you who picks them up, or the dog that goes?
No, I pick them up, and then the youngest boy, he likes to go up there golf ball hunting, and he gets particularly angry. So I know where to find them, because it's always the same corner people try to cut, or they can't, and they slice it in there anyway.
I hope you give him a helmet.
You need some sense knocking into him. No, mate, that's brilliant. So that's the 7th episode wrapped up. For those that, at the start of every show, we've got the introduction, so you can obviously reach out to Steve or myself on there. So don't forget, if you build a successful development company or you need some insights, I've got access to consultants that can help out, such as Steve or others. But obviously, more importantly, if you are thinking about going on your journey into property development, then reach out to Steve. And what was your website address again, Steve?
propertydevelopmentinstitute.com.
.com. I always remember it as .com. That'll stay with me.
Remember, I can't afford the dot.
Not AU. .com, and it appeals to the world as well if it's .com,
That's
not
it.
just Australia.
We're a global business.
Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Steve, for joining me over these 7 episodes. Hope you've enjoyed it, and reach out if you get any questions.
Anyone is welcome to contact me anytime. The website's got Contact Us page. You can book a free video call with me and chat to me about what you want to do. I'll give you some guidance, cost nothing.
Perfect. Nice one. Thanks, mate. Have a good day.
Take care.